Hey, how are you? Kumusta po kayo? And thanks for tuning in to another edition of Paul Presents Art. My name is Paul and I'll be your guide today. Today I brought you over to the Simon Fraser University, Burnaby Mountain campus, to go inside their new gallery called the Gibson Art Museum, which is of course built on the ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam nations. And we're gonna go inside and have a look at the show. It's a group show, but we're not gonna see all of the works. We're gonna concentrate on one artist, and I'll tell you who that artist is when we go inside. So I hope you can join me for the tour, and let's do it. So we're just outside the gallery, and we'll be going inside momentarily. Situated inside the campus of Simon Fraser University on Burnaby Mountain, the Marianne and Edward Gibson Art Museum just opened a few weeks ago, and this is their inaugural exhibition. Titled Edge Effects, the group show comprises 15 artists, whose works are drawn together to consider the meaning of edges in compelling ways. For this video, we'll be concentrating specifically on the work of Patrick Cruz, a Toronto-based artist whose painting environment and site-inspired construction occupies one of the galleries in the museum. As we pan the installation, let me share a short bio on the artist. Patrick Cruz is an artist, educator, and albularyo, or healer in Tagalog, who considers the role of spirituality, improvisation, intuition, and play as emancipatory tools to reify embedded colonial frameworks and ideologies in art making. His works are informed by the intersections of clown philosophy, magic, the occult, and their syncretic manifestations and relationships in contemporary life. If you're new to the channel, please know that this channel is about art, exhibitions in contemporary, historical, and outsider art, group shows, art collections, etc. I live in Vancouver, Canada, so most of my videos will be based in that region, but I'll cover exhibitions as I travel. The painting environment, as referred to by the artist, is one word, and is titled Sa Mga Kuko ng Liwanag, In the Claws of Light, 2025, acrylic, oil, gouache, ink, wax, marker, canvas, paper, glass, varnish, wood glue, grommets, chains, S-hooks, and galvanized airline cable. I'll discuss this particular work in more detail shortly, and there's another installation in the gallery, a site-inspired work that I'll also discuss toward the end of this video. As we navigate through this unconventional explosive salon-style installation, you'll likely notice a variety of hanging mechanisms used throughout this expansive work. I'll share some of the individual works in more detail as we encounter them. I'm also doing a slower pan of the exhibition, as there's so much to see and enjoy. The stretched works hang traditionally on the wall, while the unstretched works are installed using a variety of means, suspended from the ceiling with chains and hooks. Some are draped over, and some are simply rolled up. It's like controlled chaos, in my opinion, akin to the experience of walking through the forest, encountering an environment of dreams, nature, spirituality, and maybe even animistic evocations. This particular work has three-dimensional qualities to it, with the pulp paper caked on forming white globular masses obscuring the elements underneath it, an excavation of sorts. Our experience of the installation is heightened by the color, shapes, and lushness of the works. I tend to think that this visual cacophony is meant to delight and disorient, like a child in a candy shop. And funnily enough, the children who enter the exhibition are in awe of the color and shapes they encounter. Mind you, so are the parents. This work with the lobster and seashells, along with various scraps of ephemera, feels like a cultural archaeology. At first, it reminded me of the seashore, with the shells strewn all over the beach, along with the garbage that tourists and beachgoers often leave behind. From an art historical perspective, these banal objects reference arte povera, or literally poor art in Italian, which often utilizes humble and banal objects found in the real world as material for art. The work synthesizes the idyllic with the real and proposes a middle ground that we all try to navigate. There's also a reference to surrealism's evocation of shapes and images through dream-like psychological landscapes. In some measure, all the works in the show exhibit these artistic tendencies, and then some. It's also worthwhile noting the title of this painting installation, Sa mga kuko ng liwanag, which also translates as in the claws of brightness. Liwanag is a word that can mean many things depending on context, but often alludes to light or brightness. In my research, I discovered that it's also the title of a Tagalog language novel written by Filipino author Edgardo M. Reyes. The novel was originally serialized in the weekly magazine Liwayway, meaning dawn, from 1967 to 1968. The fictive novel revolves around the life of Julio, a poor fisherman who goes to Manila in search of his betrothed named Ligaya, meaning happiness, who left for Manila accompanied by a lady named Mrs. Cruz to study and work in the city. In essence, the protagonist, Julio, is searching for his Ligaya or happiness. Stories of these sorts, either fiction and not, are rather common, where farmland folk leave their homes for brighter prospects in the big city, perhaps for a better life, for wealth, or, in this case, for love. Judging from the title of the work, it's important to acknowledge an undercurrent of Philippine vernacular, artistic, and colloquial influences permeating within the individual works, and with the environment itself as a whole. In my opinion, people from immigrant backgrounds ultimately engage in a dialogue with their ethnicity and the impact of Western influences that, inevitably, becomes part of their stories and their legacy. Having said that, a good majority of the work seemed to be influenced by intuition, culminating in dreamlike landscapes with southern hemispherical flora rendered in a pattern and decoration or William Morris-style arrangement, some with snake and ladder graphics, stellar cartographic constellations, and abstract motifs that, in my opinion, references a variety of artistic movements. The vibrant compositions of Dutch artist Karel Appel comes to mind. There's also the art brut, or outsider art quality, of obsessively filling the canvas with forms and marks. Then there's the Disney or manga-style cartoon-like compositions that share wall space with religious, retableau-inspired folk art traditions mixed in. For example, in this particular work, I discern a reference to Filipino artist Manuel Ocampo, whose satirical, primitive-style paintings comment on the relationship between church and state in the Philippines. So what am I trying to say here? Well, my experience of the work is that there's not one artistic movement defining his practice. There may be a predominant or favorite style, but Patrick Cruz creates environments with his painting practice, attempting to transfer his spiritual experience of art through a trance-like navigation of his painting environment. He mines historic references from Western art history, Asian cultural references, right down to the current zeitgeist, influenced by advertising and social media, because that's what the world is like these days, a visual feast of news and entertainment from social media sources. And what about the salon-style hanging of the work? I think it denotes density, perhaps referencing the busy metropolises of cities like Manila, Jakarta, or Mexico City, where the gutter spaces between the paintings and the uneven paths through the hanging canvases offer a pathway through the installation. These large metropolises remind me of the social and architectural infrastructure of old colonial cities, where a deep archaeological connection to the land exists. It's a patchwork of architectural styles, with scars and repairs holding the city together. And perhaps I see this painting environment in the same way, as a patchwork of styles. And isn't the absence of a particular style a style unto itself, perhaps denoting experimentation? Something to think about. I also want to share with you what the director and curator of the museum, Kimberly Phillips, had to say about the work. I was fortunate enough to be in the gallery when she conducted an informal tour of the show. I recorded the audio from the talk, and I'd like to share some of that with you. Please note that the quote was edited, so I bear full responsibility for any inaccuracies, if there are any. Just want to put that out there as a disclaimer. So, here goes. And I quote, "This cacophonous, amazing installation is the work of Patrick Cruz. And Patrick is another artist that we've had long, long conversations with. He's another artist who really refuses to stay in a lane. Like when he paints, it's like he's painting environments, not just pictures. He also comes from the Philippines, but is completely uninterested in expressing the interpretations of a type of identity or Filipino-ness through symbols and signs that comes across as such. So he's often drawing his ideas and compositions from a really wide range and uses different kinds of methodologies in order to generate his paintings. He often works with past life regression and remote viewing, so highly unconventional, pseudo-scientific means that are highly unacademic in the capital A sense. So these hanging installations is actually several bodies of work that he continues to overpaint on the same canvases. So it's almost like an archive of his own practice over years, and he's highly responsive. When we were installing the show, he was excited by the draping of one of the dishcloths nearby, and thinking about the domestic context, and so responded by draping and hanging his own canvases in a similar way. That's the end of this particular quote. There's more I wish to share shortly, but notice those rolled up canvases, they'll play a part in the upcoming segment. We're just coming up to the end of this particular environment, and the next work, which will seem trippy and non-academic, is titled 49.279001, minus 122.914881, 49.2789195, minus 122.9149733, 49.2789985, minus 122.9148885. A site-inspired work made in 2025, constructed of woodworks from the Simon Fraser University Art Collection. Those numbers that I recited seem like coordinates of longitude and latitude, but we'll try to verify that. To give context to this work, I'll continue that excerpt from the curator's tour, which begins now, and I quote, "Patrick was really interested in SFU's art collection, which is about 6,000 works strong, and Dr. Gibson, the namesake for this museum, really felt this art museum should be the home of the SFU art collection. Patrick was quite interested in the work as they live in the vault, in the quiet and in the dark, and of course he lives in Toronto, so he wasn't here to do research, but he wanted to try to make selections of work to bring out and show you using remote viewing, which is a practice used during the Cold War a lot by the CIA to try and spy on the Soviet Union by using the geographic coordinates of something you are searching for, and you get yourself in a subconscious state and allow things to just appear to you. So he would have these waking dreams, and he would write down the images that would come to mind, and he sent those descriptions to our collections manager, who used the descriptions to search our database, and it's worth it to come around and look. All of these works came up as a result of Patrick's musings and hallucinations, and we sought the images of, say, surrealist Claude Cahun. We've got Carol Apple, Max Ernst, Emily Carwork, Carl Beam, some Grand Maison, and some of the earliest works acquired into the collection. And you can tell by the WA numbers that are listed on the backs of the work, and a lone number indicates one of the first works to come into the collection. And then he built this structure, which makes the work inaccessible but also porous, like he drew it, and they're facing inward, as though they're having a conversation with one another. And there's all this interesting correspondence, visual and conceptual links you can make between these works that were chosen by completely bizarre means. And the most hilarious thing is, he had all these extra canvases that he wasn't sure where they should go. So he rolled them up, pushed them against the side of the construction as though they're trying to get into the vault. And that is the end of the quote. As I start to do a final pan of the show, I wish to thank director and curator Kimberly Phillips for her generous insights into the work of Patrick Cruz. And I believe that's a good place to leave things. I hope you enjoyed this tour of Patrick Cruz's painting exhibition and site-inspired installation, part of the group show Edge Effects, here at the Gibson Art Museum. If you'd like to share your thoughts, observations, questions, please do so in the comment section below. That would be great. Click the like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. It's free, and as a non-monetized channel, subscribing achieves visibility and creates added awareness of the artist and the gallery. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Thank you for joining me today. Have a great day, and I hope art continues to inform your life. Tune in again next time for more art-related videos. Goodbye!